speaking of going bad, Start Engine, the investor, one of a number of platforms that let you invest your money into products and potentially see a return on them for companies that want to do rounds of funding, kind of in the wake of a Fig or Republic and some of this other stuff. They were at a point home to a round of funding for the Intellivision Amico.
Here we go.
Okay.
Wah, wah.
The long-running project to bring a family. If you're not aware of the Amico, I don't blame you. It's an attempt to make a family-friendly console that evokes some of the Intellivision history in terms of how they handle the controller. The idea it being a touch screen on the controller. And they made a bunch of big claims early on about like all these games need to be rated very low for family friendliness. We're not going to allow add-on purchases. The games need to be priced. I think it was like $10 or lower was what they said, if I remember correctly. They went and raised a bunch of money, did a bunch of crowdfunding, took a bunch of pre-orders for consoles, and then they keep showing.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. There's some gameplay trailers that seem to be reusing footage from year to year, and like none of it looks good on top of that. And basically, as you dig into this and look around the edges, the whole thing looks more and more like a scam.
Yeah.
And I don't think it necessarily started that way. And I'm not saying it is a scam, but I'm saying like the odds that this thing actually hits a market and all this other stuff seemed low going into this. Now the Start Engine campaign, they were attempting to sell $5 million in shares in Amico. Alongside that campaign starting, they had to do a bunch of SEC disclosures that talked a lot about like, hey, if we succeed in raising this $5 million, we'll probably still need to do another one of these down the line to have enough cash to actually get this thing out the door. We have a bunch of bad loans on the books and other stuff. You know, there's a guy who invested a bunch of money in it, and I think his son is now on the board of Intellivision, but also he is set to... It was like an interest-free loan, but he gets $100 of each sale of each Amico until he's paid back.
Holy shit!
Okay. So out of the gate, there's $100 off each piece of hardware that goes to paying this guy back.
One dude.
There's
that's a bad shark deal.
Whoa! It's interest-free, so if you can do it, I don't know. I don't know. So like there's just like there's There's a lot of mess around this. Long story, slightly less long, but still long. They attempted to raise $5 million in shares. 53 people put up $47,000, and it's $47,651. They closed the campaign about 2 months early. And the SEC filing around this would seem to indicate that because of the failure of this campaign, they maybe have 1 to 2 months of money left. The number was slightly higher. It was up above 50,000, but I think because the campaign did not reach its goal, it gave people the opportunity to then go like, oh, I want my money back. I don't want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to mention that $47,651 divided by 53 is $899 per person.
If there was an even spread.
If it was averaged, which means that there's obviously a couple of whales in there just throwing in $10,000 for to make it look like it's going somewhere. Probably.
Yeah.
Man, people's portfolios now are fucked.
Damn, son.
So there's a lot more mess on this. So I mean, so I guess as long as there was supposed to be a release date announcement or some kind of announcement in the February timeframe. That came and went. We're now in March, and the CEO of Intellivision, Phil Adam, who has taken over, I guess. So Tommy Tallarico is no longer the CEO. He has stepped down to Chief Creative Officer. And Phil Adam is now helming this thing. So there was an announcement from him or an email out from him to backers and press and stuff like that. implying that they are in a quiet period as a result of talking to investors slash potential acquirers.
Yeah. Oh.
Which I feel like they have blown through a lot of crowdfunding with not a lot to show for it. And they have also pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. I mean, granted, they're trying to launch hardware during a chip shortage and during a pandemic, and there's a lot of moving pieces. I'm not saying that this should be easy, but I just don't feel like they have a lot of credibility left at this point.
Yeah. This is like a doomed project from even under normal good circumstances. This seems like an incredibly difficult thing to do.
Yeah. And then you layer on all the stuff that's been going on, and yeah, it's very hard. Like when you dig through the SEC filing, and granted, I am not a financial advisor, but as other people have dug through it, and I've kind of read some of those and looked through it a bit myself. I don't know who acquires this because of the amount of like debt you would take on. I don't know what you're getting. You're getting like a box that is powered, that has like the power of an old Android phone inside it. Like it's not. It doesn't seem like that enticing of a thing, unless you're also getting the full Intellivision IP and all that other stuff, and maybe you could turn that into something on the other end of figuring out all that debt.
So how much money has gone into this at this point?
I don't know the total number. I know that they've had more successful campaigns in the past when this stuff was newer. And so I believe that amount is in the millions. I don't have that in front of me. So yeah, that's the long and short of it, is that now they claim to be in a quiet period instead of announcing anything. They say that they are talking to someone that might pick it up or someone that might invest more in it. But again, like after failing this, and then like if you look at the full breadth of what has happened with the Amico story, I don't understand who comes in and goes, yeah, man, I'm the next person to dump a bunch of money into this mess. I don't, it's hard to see them getting that money back out and how that would be.
We're running out of suckers.
Yeah.
What they got to do is just get someone to make a TV show based off of the Amico. And then they can get the TV deal money to keep maybe
make it like that Enron documentary. You know how popular that was.
Yeah. Then around this, there's just been like, so there's like a weird community of people that are like super hyped for the Amico, and then they look at any negative coverage of it as being like somehow like they're haters. Like even the chief operating officer has spent a lot of time in those Start Engine comments as people have been like, hey, I have questions about this project before I invest, which, granted, some of them are trolling. But it's just been like, I'm sick of all the haters. Like there's just like a lot of talk about haters, which I feel like slapping that attitude on top of your failure to raise money and failure to produce with the money that you've raised is just like, what are you even doing? So it just feels like
that goes with the psychology of being involved in something that you've invested so much time and energy and money into. Any cult or any scam or anything like that, you have to believe it's not that. So you're just going to double down and get super defensive about it.
Yeah, and so they've tried to turn it into this culture war of like, this console is just plain fun for families, and you've got like YouTube people out there like that have taken that side, and then you see reports out of that community saying like Tommy Tallarico got on a private Zoom call with a lot of us influencers and talked to us about Amico stuff that hadn't been announced yet, and you're like, wait a minute, is that legal for him to disclose that as in conjunction with the investors, and telling them ahead of investors is like highly irregular, and what's going on there? And so there's a bunch of backpedaling there, like, oh, I never said that, like YouTube videos getting taken down.
What influencers is he reaching out to?
The same way as NFT stuff. Like it's the same like brand of like cult of personality stuff going on.
Yeah.
Is he reaching out to like, I don't know, like old console restorer people, sneakerheads about the Amico?
It seems like an older audience. So that's the kind of the other weird thing is like for a console that seems to be presenting itself as like we're this family friendly thing. It is a bunch of gray beard dudes going like, yeah, television's back, and like it's I don't know. It's it's very interesting. There's so there's been some backpedaling on the end of some of that stuff happening where the COO posted in a comment on that thing about the SEC Form C filing and how the haters would use that filing to attack the company. It's like the haters.
So exhausting.
It's an exhausting mess of like I've been trying to keep it at arm's length for as long as I could, but this was just a slow enough news week to make it happen. So it's a goddamn mess. The games are already on sale, by the way. Nice. You can buy Amico games, but what you get is a box with an RFID card in the box, and then the RFID card links to, because you're supposed to be able to tap cards on the console to acquire games. On that card is just a URL,
like an amiibo
that goes, like an amiibo, that goes to a website that the URL that isn't live yet.
This is why the environment
like
is
an
dying.
IOU.
Yes, and those they did. I was confused about this, but apparently they are claiming that these RFID tags are also meant to be NFTs in some fucking way. So
I'm done.
Because of course they are, right? I mean, like if this company is like spiraling out of control and you're like, we need to find new suckers for money, at some point you're like, oh, let's write the word NFT on this document and then try to raise money that way, and maybe we'll have better luck. But
this is the Fire Fest of consoles.
Yeah, they're like
promising a lot and then being
the
like,
Soulja Boy console held more promise than this thing
did.
At this point.
It did. Jesus.
I don't know what to make of it. It's a mess. Long story actually short, that thing is still an absolute mess, and I seriously doubt that thing's ever going to come out at this point. Like, I'm certainly, that's not a fucking bold take. Like that's becoming a pretty common take on this thing. And we'll see what happens, but it feels like they missed their window for making something like that and the amount of money they'll probably have to charge for it. They also went back on some of the console pricing and said, hey, it's going to maybe have to be higher than we thought.
Yeah,
at which point, why wouldn't you buy a Switch? Like it's getting into this territory of just like you're charging the same as other actual proper consoles, and why would anyone?
Even the initial promise was like absurdly low, like unfeasibly, stupidly low. It's like that's not going to happen. Like, use your noodle. Like consoles take more time and money and work and materials to make than that amount of money.
Yeah, and the games don't, like the footage that they have put out there, which has been very careful and limited and all this other stuff. Like, Cornhole does not look especially good.
Oh,
I know, right?
Think for yourself.
That's the saddest part about this is that there was a Cornhole game on the line. There's also the potential that some of these games end up on phones at some point.
Yeah.
So maybe they see the light of day in some weird way. I don't.
Boy.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I don't think anyone really does. I don't think the people trying to build this console know what the fuck's going on. So how could I?
Part of me wonders if those people are even getting paid, like the engineer type people, the people that actually have to do the work. Part of me is wondering if like even they are not getting like their checks deposited in their bank.
I believe there was a story where one of the people that was responsible for some architecture aspect of it had not necessarily been.
Red flags. Could not have more red flags. Oh, I hit the mic. More red flags.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeesh.
I don't.
This is depressing.
It's a disaster.